All right. So let's look at, as I said, this log law is what we are going to use. When we have a node P here and we are solving, let's say, the two equation eddy viscosity model, we are solving for the velocities, right? And we are solving for the turbulence kinetic energy and dissipation rate or omega. So we need a boundary condition here at node P. So we need UP, U bar P actually, right? The mean velocity at P node. You need K at P node, epsilon at P node, omega at P node, and so on, whatever you are using. That is what is the wall function. So how to get velocity at P? That's the first thing, right? You are computing the momentum. How to get velocity at P node? Log law, right? I just told you there is a log law. So you are just going to use this empirical formula to give boundary condition at node P in your CFD calculation. You are not letting the flow calculate. You are not letting your discretized equation calculate the velocity at P. You will simply use the log law to give the velocity at P. But this, of course, this geometry, as I am saying here, right? So this kind of a complicated geometry. This is not a flat plate boundary layer, not smooth at all. But many times wall functions are used. So you need to know about this, right? That is the idea. So remember how wall functions are derived, and when you are using it, be aware of it, what you are doing. There can be wall functions available even for rough considerations also, but this kind of a general roughness is very complicated to get. You can get some kind of a like the rib roughness that I have shown, something where it is regular roughness, regular periodically occurring obstacle, that kind of a roughness. There may be a wall function derived for that, but something very generic industrial flows, no. And this is more popular, what I am going to do. So this is what is used in industrial flow, even though they will have complicated geometries. Okay. So first thing is to get the velocity at the P node. So what do we need here is that at node P, we need U bar P, you need Kp, you need epsilon P, you need omega P, and so on, whichever model you are using, depending on that. Okay. So U bar P I already gave a clue. Now let's look at the other things, how to obtain the other parameters. Now recall the log law zone, right? Log law region. So what happens so special in this zone? Apart from that, you can get a logarithmic fit for your velocity, is that we have seen when we computed the C mu, right? We used log law also there, right? So what did we obtain there? Square root of C mu. This was nothing but U prime V prime average by K. We looked at this ratio in the log law zone and we said this is, from experiments I get the value 0.3, and therefore C mu becomes 0.09. So this we have already done, right? So let's call this equation 1. So now we have looked at what is called a wall friction velocity in a constant stress layer, right? So now recall that also. All these concepts are used now. Recall constant stress layer. This constant stress layer has everything there: linear sublayer, buffer layer, as well as the inertial sublayer, all three. So your wall friction velocity or the wall shear stress becomes viscous stress in the linear sublayer, and as you go to inertial sublayer, it becomes turbulent shear stress, and somewhere in between it's a combination of both. That we have learned, right? So using constant stress layer, what we can get is that we have U star square is nothing but your tau W by rho, the wall shear stress, right? So let's call this equation 2 here. Now you must know that this tau W by rho, okay, so this is nothing but your or the tau W itself is nu in the linear sublayer, linear zone, and this tau w by rho becomes minus u prime bar in the log law zone that we have seen to first order what would appear. So that means the u star, the wall friction velocity, you can compute this. I told you both experimentalists like it because they don't have to measure close to the wall. They can compute only u prime v prime average. From that they can compute wall friction velocity and use it to compute skin friction coefficient and so on. Now modeling community, why leave them out, right? We also want to use this concept. So now I have this formula, the equation 1, u prime v prime bar. Now that is nothing but tau w by rho, which is nothing but u star square. So I can substitute u star square by k equal to square root of c mu. Okay, that is what I'm going to do now. This is clear what I have done. So therefore, using the above equations, what I get is the u prime v prime over bar by k equal to square root of c mu, right? So now I'm going to substitute u prime v prime over bar k as the tau w by rho by k equal to square root of c mu. It's nothing but u star square by k equal to square root of c mu. So why did I do all this? That's because now I can get the k, or I can simply write here k at the p node. I can compute now simply as u star square, which you can obtain from the logarithmic law, over square root of c mu. So kp, k at node p, you need u star square or u star, and then c mu value you already know, right? C mu is 0.09. So this is, we have figured it out at least how the turbulence kinetic energy k at p node we can introduce, which is u star square by square root of c mu. But how to get u star then? As I said, from your logarithmic log law region, right? So from log law, we have u plus is equal to 1 by kappa logarithmic of y plus b. Okay, so now I can rewrite this b is some constant 5.2, or where b is 5.2 or 5.5 and so on, some constant value. So all I can do now is I can rewrite this as 1 by kappa logarithmic of y plus I would like to express this constant also as a function of von Karman constant and in a logarithmic way. So I would write this as 1 by kappa logarithmic value of some e. E turns out to be 9 here. Okay, so I get the value here. So e will be 9. So now I can write this as 1 by kappa logarithmic of y plus e. That is, so this is how you can compute your at the p node you can get this value, but I am interested in u star, right? So the u star appears here naturally if I expand the y plus. What is y plus? It is u star y by nu. So u star y by nu e. Okay, so all I would need now is to obtain u star. So, but if you recall, what is u bar plus? This is nothing but u bar divided by u star. It's a non-dimensional quantity, right? So I need u bar p value. You can compute that, as well as to get u star now. So this implies the u star you can get using u bar at the p node. Of course, the kappa also comes, divided by the logarithmic of your u star yp by nu e. So everything is available for you here to compute u star. Von Karman constant is available, right? Kappa 0.41. UP you can compute from log law, right? YP is just a distance, is known. YP is your wall normal distance. Y is the YP is the distance of Y from wall to the node P. E value is known, kinematic viscosity is known. You can compute this. But is there a challenge here to compute this? What is it? U star. Yeah, U star is depending on U star itself. So how do you do this? You have to iterate, right? So you must iterate, since U star is depending on itself or appearing on both sides. On both LHS and RHS, you must iterate U star. So iteratively you must find in a CFD calculation. So now Kp is found. So U star can be obtained using this. That means first you obtain your UP value, from that you obtain U star. After U star is available, Kp is obtained. So all these are boundary conditions that you have to implement, Kp, UP, and let's say epsilon p. Now how do I get epsilon p? We introduce a scale for epsilon p. So if you recall again, recall the log law region again. So what is so special happening in the log law zone is that we saw in canonical flows, the pk is nearly balancing the epsilon to first order. And we introduce a scale for this, that is u cube by L. So we can set this as u star cube by the mixing length idea, kappa y p. So epsilon p is now available to you. So therefore epsilon p is nothing but u star cube by kappa yp. So the boundary condition is available for you now, or the so-called wall function is available to you now. Kp, epsilon p, u star, everything is available. For omega also it's straightforward. Since you know the relationship between omega, k and epsilon, you can obtain this. I have Kp and epsilon p. Using these two, I can obtain a relationship for omega p also. If you are using, let's say, omega p. It's in a k omega model, right? In a k omega model. So we know omega is epsilon by beta star k, right? So I can simply say omega p therefore should be epsilon p by beta star kp equal to u star cube by kappa yp beta star 1 over kp. Kp is u star square by square root of mu. So it becomes square root of c mu by u star square. So this cancels out, giving you u star divided by kappa yp beta star square root of c mu. But here beta star, we know that is equal to c mu equal to 0.09. So therefore omega p can be simply u star by kappa yp, okay, square root of beta star c mu. Okay. Sometimes this beta star is dropped, so the formula appears slightly different. In some commercial codes I have seen this beta star is dropped. They would like to have omega p simply as a ratio of epsilon p by kp. So then it will be u star square root of c mu by kappa yp itself. Sometimes beta star is included, sometimes it's not. So also this one, sometimes it is also, you can say omega p is simply considered as epsilon p by kp itself. So which will give you u star square root of c mu by kappa yp. These are like, if the results are not good enough, sometimes some constants are dropped, or you would even see that in some commercial codes, in the k epsilon model, it is not c mu k square by epsilon, it will be square root of c mu k square by epsilon. If they feel that gives a better result, they would use that, because you are going to use this model for many types of flows, not just boundary layer. So they have all these small modifications. Okay.